This week we'll be discussing the state of online security in the Western world, the must-have apps of the week, and Google's massive step forward in creating a more understanding world, as well as an awesome new smartphone to the market. Welcome to episode 22, Monday the 19th of January 2015. This is Luke Besant
and Cameron Norris.
Every week we bring you the latest industry news, must-have reviews, gadgets and internet culture.
Giving our opinions on the wider legal, social and moral implications of life in our digital age.
This is App to Date. We'll be working around our news series format this week.
Starting with the latest news from the galloping behemoth that is the global tech industry.
We move on to the must-have apps of the week.
Followed by the appropriately named Strong Opinions section.
And then we neatly wrap things up by answering questions directly from you guys, the listeners.
What more could you ask for in a podcast? Seriously.
So this is the third episode in season 2 and we are changing feeds. So welcome to the new feeds, guys.
Welcome to the new feed.
So let's start with industry news.
Twitter's native video feature is set to shake up the world of online videos. YouTube, you better watch out. Serial entrepreneur and fellow podcaster Jason Calacanis believes that within 18 months of releasing their YouTube competitor, Twitter will have at least doubled their monthly users, doubled their time per user and tripled their revenue. The key point he made was that once influencers realise they can get a 70% revenue split in their favour from their videos posted on Twitter versus the measly 55% on YouTube, they will flock from YouTube to Twitter where they already have a massive following.
So is there any official release date for this yet?
No official release date yet, but Twitter are rolling out these features to a select few individuals for testing.
So I'm really curious to find out what the branding of this service will be like. There's no way that a project like this, they're just going to name it something like built into Twitter called Twitter native video cards. It hardly rolls off the tongue, does it? So have they got a specific brand in mind already, do you know?
Nothing's been released yet. I mean, we've been having a look online, but we're going to keep researching this and hopefully we can get in touch with somebody who has already been invited onto this exclusive video testing platform. I mean, it sounds very, very exciting. Definitely for people like us. I mean, look at our YouTube compared with our Twitter. The numbers speak for themselves. Twitter is very, very powerful. And I mean, our studio owner, Mark, today, he was discussing how people have conversations on Twitter. They don't have conversations on YouTube because it's just full of trolls. I mean, the comment section is effectively a waste of time, but you could create meaningful dialogue on Twitter where it's just not possible on YouTube. And I think that's where we're going to see the impact.
I think maybe it'll just saturate what happens on Twitter though. I think they'll probably get more users and in turn even more trolls, and probably more so than YouTube has at the moment because Google Plus didn't take off.
That's very true. I mean, there are still trolls on Twitter, no doubt. I've seen my fair share of them. And I think the Twitter mob, pretty dangerous thing. So we'll see how they kind of react to videos and what happens. We'll keep a close eye on it. Moving on, we have the Xiaomi smartphones.
Which means little rice in Chinese, I believe.
That's it, exactly, Luke. Now, Xiaomi have been dominating the Southeast Asian smartphone market and they are set to expand even further.
Experts have claimed that Xiaomi's success is down to two things: great hardware at 1/3 of the price.
And taking this unique stance, Xiaomi are now launching its Redmi 4G phone in India at the amazing price of only £100, just as India's digital economy is growing in leaps and bounds. A study by the Internet and Mobile Association of India estimates that by 2018, 580 million Indians will be online, up from the current 300 million, and nearly half of them will be in rural areas.
You could argue that Xiaomi is actually the first Internet of Things company, unlike Google, which has Nest and Apple HomeKit, or even Samsung with SmartThings, all of whom are offering some sort of open SDK to tie everything together.
Xiaomi is integrating everything itself and selling everything you need on Mi.com to a fan base primed to outfit their homes for the very first time with smart technology.
That's Mi.com, M-I, so that's an expensive domain.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, they've been taking a completely internet-based approach to this. You won't find a Mi store in the real world. They've kept their overheads down so they can keep the prices of their phones down. I mean, what an excellent strategy. They've been using social media like no other phone company ever has in history. They're raking in the profits now. And in case you're wondering a little bit about The Xiaomi smartphones, well, we've got some really interesting stats here for you. Their 4GB smartphones are going for absolutely ridiculous prices. And in comparison to the new iPhone 6, the Xiaomi Redmi 1S has a larger battery, a faster processor, up to 4 times more RAM, an expandable micro SD storage slot, a higher resolution front camera, an FM radio receiver, and bizarrely, 2 spaces for SIM cards. So that's 2 SIM cards you can install in this phone, Luke. I mean, it's pretty crazy, isn't it? You're getting a whole lot more power and storage for your money with Xiaomi. I mean, there's no doubt about it.
Why would you need 2 SIM cards?
I still haven't quite worked that out.
Maybe 2 different network coverage?
Yeah, I mean, maybe you get free texts on giffgaff, for example, and then free texts on Orange. You've got some mates on Orange, you've got some mates on giffgaff. I'll just put 2 SIM cards in, why
I
not?
like that. That sounds good to me.
That's not a fact, that's just...
Yeah.
We don't have a Xiaomi yet. But yeah, great phone, great product, great company. I've checked out their website. They're doing all kinds of things, smart TVs, phones, tablets, everything. And, you know, they've clearly ripped off Apple. There's no doubt about it. They're being described much to the disdain of their own as the Asian equivalent of Apple. But, you know, they seem great. I would definitely try out one of these phones.
But a high-end 4G phone at £100 just seems like an absolute bargain, really. You can't say fairer than that.
Yeah, you can't fault it, can you? I mean, we'll see what they're like.
A lot of things to be said about numbers and statistics, but at the end of the day, if it's not a high-quality bit of hardware, when you have it in your actual hand, it's not a high-quality bit of hardware, and we'd love to see just how much this can do.
I'm tempted to order one in, so stay tuned for that because I think I'll do that. Apple have cut off their developers in the Crimea following the US sanctions.
Tensions between Russia and the US over Crimea is spilling into the world of technology. Developers are reporting that Apple is sending out notices of termination to people whose accounts are registered in Crimea, citing sanctions that the US has ordered against the region in response to Russia's annexing earlier in 2014. This means developers cannot create or publish apps in the Apple App Store.
The move follows Valve apparently also terminating access to its Steam games distribution platform in Crimea too.
That's absolutely insane, really. We said it before, and I said it in a discussion about security. Apple aren't a branch of the US government, and they shouldn't see themselves as such, and they shouldn't even see themselves as an American corporation anymore. They should see themselves as an international corporation, especially if they're trying to move into this Chinese market. They shouldn't be taking sides over stuff like this. They need to protect their rights of their users, protect themselves, and they have no reason at all to be concerned with the national security of Crimea, America, or Russia.
Well, it'll be very interesting to hear what kind of pressure was put onto Apple by the US government in regard to this, because I'm sure, I mean, sanctions, it's a powerful thing.
I'm not sure Tim Cook would let it go that easily, though. Apple are more powerful in many financial ways than the US government. They've actually overturned laws about taxing just because Apple said no. So I can't believe that for any reason other than Apple must have an insider reason to do it, that they would possibly consider putting sanctions on just because the US government tells them to.
I think what you're saying there, Luke, is certainly worth some more research. So maybe in the next episode, we'll have a follow-up to this. It's a very important topic, you know. What if China gets annoyed with us? We have a Xiaomi phone and it gets switched off.
Yeah.
Because, you know, China and the UK have fallen out. So
it's all about thinking what would happen if it was to be the tables were to be turned, and that is certainly something that may happen in the next 100 years or so. Everybody needs to be watching their back when it comes to sanctions and things like this.
Yeah, and what rights does the global consumer actually have? I mean, everyone's promoting kind of cross-border trade, international trade, but one day you're an app developer, the next you're not.
Punishing the people of a country for the actions of other people in other countries through a corporation which has nothing to do with the governments is absolutely insane. As we say, we'll put more research into it, we'll come back to it next week and we'll see what we can dig up.
Sanctions. So Luke, the first film flopped, but would you go to see a second Steve Jobs film?
So this is a biopic they're making of Steve Jobs, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Well, the last one, Aston Kutcher in it, had some merits. I'm not particularly a film critic, but I know a lot about film, and I don't think that film did particularly well, and I don't think it had a very high approval rating either, so I think it is worth making another film, because his life is certainly worth documenting in a biopic in this way, and I look forward to seeing it, and hopefully it's a little bit better than the Two and a Half Men style.
The previous disaster, I think it got about 20% on Rotten Tomatoes, so Yeah, not so great. Now, this biopic covers three of Jobs' most important product launches: the Macintosh computer in 1984, the Next computer in 1988, and the release of the iPod in 2001. So, I mean, from our point of view, as anyone who's interested in tech history, this should be an amazing film, really interesting. Let's hope they pull it off.
Yeah, absolutely game-changing computers there. I mean, the Macintosh, the mouse, the trackpad on the iPod, you know, the first multi-touch touchscreens on the consumer end that people actually wanted to use on the iPod Touch and the iPhone. These are massive technological advances, especially in Next computers. I'd love to see more about Next computers in a movie about Steve Jobs, because I don't think they touch on it enough. And his whole contribution to Pixar and stuff like that, I would love to see a bit more of that in his biopics.
Absolutely, awesome. Yeah, I'm looking forward to it. And sticking with Apple, I mean, we are the App to Date podcast after all, but you know, Apple's new Swift programming language has absolutely exploded in popularity. Analysis by Red Monk ranks the future popularity of programming languages based on the amount of discussion on Stack Overview and their usage on GitHub. Red Monk, which is actually the only developer-focused industry analyst firm, singled Swift out for growth that is essentially unprecedented in the history of these rankings. Their growth has been so extraordinary, no other programming language has seen anything about it. From its conception, Swift has been designed to be more approachable and more fun, and I mean, allow developers to produce apps quickly and easily, and clearly this approach is working.
Well, we have actually given it a go trying to learn Swift ourselves, and it's not an easy programming language, but for those who have programmed before, you can get onto it pretty quickly. We have actually got our own app coming out very soon, which we'll be talking about in next week's show.
On iOS and Android, no less.
No less. We've also got a Windows version coming out, which Cameron doesn't know about yet.
Yeah, well, you can be responsible for that one, Luke.
I don't think anybody would use it. The Windows version.
No, I didn't know there was such a thing as a Windows Phone.
There will be by the end of this year, mate, I'm telling you.
Moving on, Apple has started blacklisting European users who abuse its app refund policy. Now, we've made jokes about taking advantage of the App Store refund system in previous episodes, but now Apple is actually blacklisting European users who abuse that system.
Yeah, sorry about that. If you started getting that idea from us and took it from our direction, please, one, don't say that we were responsible for it, because we did say don't do it. And second of all, please don't tell them it was us.
Yeah, I think we kind of joked about putting an instructional manual on our website on how to do it.
Which we didn't.
Which we didn't.
We could have done, but we didn't.
Yeah, we could have done, but we didn't. But, I mean, we definitely foresaw this. Yeah, basically, Apple are now striking back at any users who figured out how to abuse this new refund policy for digital purchases within Europe by blacklisting them from future reimbursements. So this problem started with Apple's requirement to conform to the EU consumer protection laws last month, which allows European users who purchase apps, songs, ebooks, or other digital media to claim refunds within 14 days of purchase. I mean, once again, what's this? Governments intervening and causing problems.
Yep.
Same old story.
But some customers have discovered that they can demand their money back on repeat purchases, apparently even if you keep the downloads.
We didn't put this idea in anyone's head. And Apple have now stated that refunds do not give you a trial period. That is not their purpose. There are no trial periods for apps on the App Store.
So essentially, if you ask for too many refunds in a short time period, then Apple will flag your behaviour and revoke your refund privileges. You have been warned.
You have been warned indeed. So don't keep buying apps and asking for refunds and then blaming us. So Luke, I think you've got some interesting news on Google Search version 4.1, teardown tips, spoken notifications and more? What could this be?
Well, essentially, Google have given us one of those weeks where they just decided, here, have everything at once. And we've been like a bunch of ADHD kids on candy for the whole week, filling up on tasty, delicious Google. Code found in the latest version of the Google Search app 4.1, which is just known as Google as the app, launched last week, point towards new third-party integration and more. The new version found on Android can launch and overlay any apps that are currently active just by using the phrase "OK Google," which will immediately push Google into the foreground and any apps you're currently using into the background. While very little is known at the moment, it is expected that the long-awaited hands-free mode will be arriving soon. The new version includes social media icons such as, Facebook, Twitter, Pinterest, social media, and early signs of integration of third-party apps and services have been spotted in code containing the layout names third_party_welcome. Second out of 4 stories from Google this week, Google Maps have updated with directions sharing. The Google Maps update 9.3 for Android users and 4.2.0 for iOS users contains directions sharing via email or SMS. Users can share directions by entering the app menu and sharing the best route for current traffic conditions. Another new feature that was included, which seems almost completely pointless, is the ability to permanently disable GPS location settings on the updated app. Third of 4 stories from Google this week, Google Play now officially has more apps than the Apple App Store. So staying with Google and coming back to what we said in previous shows about app developers moving away from iOS due to stricter regulations and Apple's ability to change its mind whenever it feels like on what's acceptable in the App Store, case in point being Papers, Please and Launcher, which was banned for being a misuse of widgets a week after iOS 8 came out. Well, according to analytics from firm AppFigures, Google Play Store now officially has more apps than Apple's App Store. Google is reported to sell 1.43 million apps compared to Apple's 1.21 million and Amazon's measly 293,000 apps. The report also claims that Google's Android developer community grew faster than its iOS counterpart for the 3rd year running. It claims that Google Play has over 388,000 developers compared to Apple's 282,000 developers and Amazon's meek 48,000 developers.
Amazon's getting smashed.
AppFigures claim that Google has doubled its numbers in 2014, although the report actually points out in 2014 all 3 app stores grew by at least 50%.
So 2014 was a fantastic year for apps overall. Android, iOS, even Amazon.
I put it all down to the last series of iOS App to Date.
I agree, actually. Yeah. We've ignited a nation and inspired them to become Appaneers, I think we named them. Also, Google have released their web-based educational tool Classroom as an app for iOS and Android.
Okay, so for our last story about Google, Google Translate has released its new app and it is madly awesome. This Wednesday, the updates to Google Translate transformed mobile devices into real-time language translation tools for written and spoken word.
Using your smartphone's camera, you can change text written in French, German, Italian, Portuguese, Russian, Spanish, or English into any other aforementioned language. It's amazing.
Now, I've used a few of these apps whilst travelling around Europe, and I've got to say none of these are anywhere near as fast or useful and actually struggle to read most fonts, whereas this appears to have absolutely no trouble with most standard fonts, most standard road signs, and it just works instantaneously. The practical application of this in real life is huge. This technology could easily help you read legal documents, read road signs instantaneously at a glance. Simple things like ordering at a restaurant is made easy by this app. No longer will you be flipping through your phrase book looking for a way to ask for the bill. The feature is actually a development of WordLens, which is an app that I actually tried to use when I was out in Belgium, and it was definitely the best one, but until now, because this Google Translate is absolutely fantastic. Google acquired WordLens when it bought up Quest Visual last year.
WordLens in Google Translate operates independent of the internet, meaning it avoids data charges from telecommunication service providers completely. The app also comes with voice recognition and uses the internet to translate both sides of a conversation in real time while saving a transcript of the chat. What more could you ask for in a translation app? Google, you've really outdone yourselves here.
And continuing our Google to Apple rally, Apple says that it has 1 million users sign up for iBooks every week.
Sounds a little bit fishy to me, I must say.
As we all know, Apple recently made the decision to include the iBooks app as a preload on iOS 8 and OS X Yosemite. Figures revealed at the Digital Book World Conference in New York on Thursday by Director of iBooks Keith Moria claimed that more than 1 million users are signing up for iBooks every week since the launch of iPhone 6 and iPhone 6 Plus. Now, if this figure is accurate, it could actually pose an enormous threat to the industry dominating figure, which is Amazon.
Now, Keith was actually quoted as saying, "We are seeing more of our book sales starting to come from the phone. This could be a breakthrough for the ebook market to see users of large screen phones using their phones in place of a Kindle or tablet. But this could also eat away at, as we've said in previous episodes, iPad sales. I mean, the iPad sales, they're significantly dropping, and people are using their iPhones for more and more traditionally iPad-based applications."
It's difficult to say traditionally iPad-based applications considering it's not been around very long, but there are certainly things that you would do in the last few years on the iPad that you wouldn't even consider doing on the iPhone. And they've sort of trod on their own toes here with making the iPhone 6 Plus just so big. It's almost an iPad mini and not quite an iPad mini. You know.
It's definitely the most phablet I think I've seen yet.
Now, the difference from the writer's perspective and the publisher's perspective here is with each book sale, Apple only take 30% of the money received, which depending on how badly your book sells, it may actually leave you with quite a light gross profit considering you spent all that time writing it. It seems like a fantastic deal though when compared to Amazon's policy, which is paying the writer only 30% royalty unless they have it below the price of $9.99, in which case they get 70%. So you can actually see the massive benefit there for people who are writing and self-publishing to do it on the iBook store rather than the Amazon store. I mean, most people are going to do it on both, let's face it, but they're getting a much, much better deal on the Apple iBook store. Support your writers.
Yeah, I think Apple have made a fantastic move here. I think Amazon, wow, those are pretty ghastly figures, paying only 30% royalties. All that time and effort you put in. I mean, I think the 2000s have kind of been the rise of self-publishing. And before that, yeah, people were at the kind of the whim and mercy of these big publishing companies where I'm sure they got even less than 30% when they wrote their first book. However, now there's a lot more options available. You don't need to sacrifice 70% of your gross profit. You can go to Apple, or you can even host it on your own website. But yeah, it's great to see Apple are being quite free with this. I think the $9.99 for 70% is shocking. They're trying to turn Amazon into like a discount bookstore.
Yeah.
Not going to happen. But anyway, moving on. We've got an app that lets parents lock their kids' smartphones if they ignore calls. How cool is that? If I was a parent, I would be over the moon at the sounds of this.
I know you were like that. I knew you'd be like that. I've wrote this next article in the exact opposite way of what you would be thinking. So bear in mind, this next article is pretty much all my opinion, and Cameron will completely dismiss everything I say afterwards, I'm sure. So check this out. I've discovered this app this week. It's a parental guidance app called Ignore No More! This app gives parents the ability to lock their child's phone to get their attention. The app, which digitally chastises children on behalf of parents, is available on Android, and you can control the child's phone from iOS or Android, with the full version for the children coming to iOS sometime in March. When the phone is locked, the kids can't text, surf the internet, play games, or look at Facebook. What they can do is call the parent back to get the password to unlock their phone. Despite the fact this is pretty much an obvious punishment tool, which I'm sure that you will agree with, Cameron, the 47-year-old mother of two creator says it is not a punishment tool, it is a tool to try and correct behaviour, which, correct me if I'm wrong, is usually a punishment. Now let's talk the positive and negative sides of the implication of this app from both standpoints. Both the children say they were 15 years old and the parents' point of view. So first and foremost, I couldn't find this out, and I think it's one of the most important things. I probably should have downloaded the app and tried it out, but unfortunately I don't have an Android phone on me right now. Can you make 999 calls? Or 911 if you're in America, rather?
It's a very good question, a very good question.
So that's going to be more important than phoning your parents, hopefully. So I suppose the upshot of this is you're teaching kids that there is a consequence for the action that they have taken in a digital way, as opposed to, in the real world, you can punish a child and they know that they've done something wrong, but on a digital format, they have no idea, There's nothing that parents can really do at the moment to stop them doing anything. So this is a great way of parentally controlling away from your child. Now, I think one of the downshots of this is I think kids tend to use technology as this form of escapism, especially kids that come from deprived areas. being online is a hugely great equal experience if you're a very poor child and you get the chance to do it. By using this app, you essentially take away your child's liberty, but I guess that comes down to what type of parenting style you're into. It's like digitally grounding your children, really, isn't it?
Exactly, yeah, digitally grounding your children. And I mean, to be honest, I'm not sure I'd really trust parents with this kind of power. No, seriously, because I think the temptation to just wind your kids up would be completely overwhelming. I mean, do the dishes. No, right, phone's blocked. Forget the ignoring the calls thing. That's just a nice extra. It's the power over the phone, the power over the child. And I think if this had been done to me growing up, I would have rebelled
more so
violently. I probably would have installed the same app on every single phone in the house, and then disabled all of them. I think maybe it kind of puts ideas in kids' heads. I think it's a little bit frustrating. I get the idea with it. I think, there could be a better one that just kind of spams them with notifications over and over and over again, but doesn't limit the functionality of their device. Because, I mean, you've quite rightly said there, Luke. Does this stop emergency calls? I mean, what if they have an abusive parent? I mean, come on, There's all kinds of situations that come up. What if someone takes their parent's phone and then disables their phone? Absolute, can of worms with this kind of app. I think it does sound quite entertaining, I must say. And yeah, I mean, let's download it. Let's chuck it on an Android phone, and we're going to test it out and let you know how we get on next week and see how we can kind of abuse this app.
Yeah. See how far we can take it with abusing this app before
definitely.
It gets an outrageous thing to do. But I think if I was designing a child protection app or a way to parentally guide children on a phone, is one, put on some parental controls if you think that you don't want them going on certain apps, certain websites. And I think that the actual app that I would invent is one that created a time limit for the day, so they would use it more sparingly. So they get, say, 45 minutes in a day to use the phone however they'd like to use it, but the rest of the time they can't use it.
I think that sounds like a very sensible idea. And then it would, let's say, limit them to options such as calling home or calling an emergency number, so on and so on.
Yeah, and then when they go out with their friends, they'll use their phones more sparingly, they'll do more real-life interaction, and it will lower the amount of time they spend being punished.
Absolutely. So you think this app's overkill?
I think this app isn't massive overkill, yeah. Okay. It's a wonderful, wonderful design. So well done to this woman who's created it, and well done to the whole team who have been behind it. I'm sure there's been a whole team because the website's very fancy. And well done a lot, but I think it is massively overkill.
Let's maybe release a light version for less sadistic parents.
App. Less sadistic.
Sorry.
Interesting story from our friends over at Adobe this week. Adobe Lightroom mobile photo editing app is now available for Android, but it has some limitations. Now this week Adobe, or Adobe, however you want to pronounce it, I'm honestly beyond the point of caring, stop emailing us, have announced that a light...
Oh, God.
have announced a light version of the Lightroom app for Android devices. For anybody who doesn't know, Adobe Lightroom is a photo processing and image organizer developed by Adobe Systems for Windows and iOS X. The current version works with what's called Adobe's Creative Cloud, which is like a control network to store files and fonts, as well as make the applications such as Photoshop readily available on a monthly cost rather than having to buy the whole Creative Suite, which in the short term greatly reduces the cost and prevents piracy. We all got that? Cool. The free app is available for iPhone and iPad users already. Notably, the app is not available for Android tablets.
I'm actually a member of the Adobe Creative Cloud.
Yeah, me too.
The pair of us, and it's great. Well done, Adobe. And when you said our friends Adobe, you meant it, because they retweet us on Twitter quite a lot. They're great guys. Yeah,
good guys, Adobe.
Good guys, Adobe. The app lets users send a set of images from the software's PC version to their Lightroom mobile app as part of the sync feature. They can then edit those images, or those from their smartphone's gallery, and share them across various social networking websites.
To use the full features of the app, you must first have a monthly membership to Lightroom, which is actually not very cheap in itself for a mobile, if you're just using it on a mobile device. A quote from Adobe says,
"Any changes you make in Lightroom Mobile will be automatically synced and updated back to the Lightroom catalogue on your desktop. The sync process uses Adobe's Creative Cloud service."
Now, the Adobe Lightroom mobile app's minimum requirements include the device to be powered by a quad-core ARM V7 architect-based CPU clocked at 1.7 GHz, 1 GB of RAM and 8 GB of inbuilt storage. So it does require quite a bit. This app will be compatible with any devices running Android Jelly Bean or later. The app is sized 19 megabytes and is available from the Google Play Store now.
Sounds like a great app, but now we have my favourite part of the show, next to the opinion section, obviously, and that is the must-have apps of the week. So the first app we have for our must-have apps of the week is Complete. In an effort to fight off the Blue Monday blues, because today is Blue Monday, officially the most depressing day of the year, we've been checking out Complete, which is a free app to combine social networking with your to-do list, giving your goals, no matter how big or small, a healthy injection of encouragement. For example, you can post about how you want to start a band or run a marathon, and complete strangers will like and give you positive feedback and maybe even offer some helpful advice. Who would have thought this kind of digital utopia was even possible? Time will certainly tell if the service doesn't get taken over by trolls, but for now it's a great app and certainly worth checking out.
So yeah, I guess the problem with that app is going to be that it might get trolled a lot. But at the moment, like you say, it's a great app and we hope that it stays positive.
Yeah, stays troll free. We need some more positivity on the internet. We need just more positivity in general. I think that we need some positivity generators. Just an app that is that. You just click on it and it finds positive news online and sends you it.
Yeah. So it's like,
Yeah.
it's like a Bitcoin mining server, except it just gives you happiness.
Yeah, exactly. And I mean, speaking of this kind of fantastic technology, we've got an app that can potentially do just that. And it's called Flipboard, your social news magazine. Now, Flipboard is essentially a content aggregation app which brings your latest social feed together in one place while thoughtfully removing all the horrible adverts.
Whee.
Excellent. You can get your tweets, you can get your Facebook status updates, your Instagram, you name it, bang, one place, ad-free. Ad-free is the key.
Can they get our podcast on there?
Well, you won't believe this, Luke, but you can even get a podcast on there. Flipboard can connect to, most social media accounts and even supports podcasts and music via its in-app player. Wow.
Talk about all in one.
All in one. You can aggregate podcasts, music, blog posts, images, social media updates, you name it. Flipboard, it just does it all. It's a Swiss Army knife of everything. I think it's fantastic. You can basically take any website with an RSS feed or a Twitter account and pull information from it to create your own custom ad-free central news feed. So check that out. That's Flipboard, your social news magazine. And I highly recommend you download that today, actually, and you chuck our podcast RSS feed in there. What a great start. We're a positivity generator, I think.
Yeah.
Most of the time.
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. And we've mentioned this app before, but it's currently on sale, and we just had to mention it again because it is fantastic. Goat Simulator is on sale this week at only $2.99. That's 60% off the regular price. 10 out of 10 would goat again.
If you're bored of the mundanity of not being a goat, then this is the one for you.
Absolutely. We mentioned this app in the past and it even made it onto our 12 apps of Christmas video starring Luke here. You need to check that out on YouTube. But for those of you who don't know, Goat Simulator can only really be described as Grand Theft Auto if a goat was the main character. It's absolutely insane. What a lot of people love about this game is that most of the achievements are like the goals in the old Tony Hawk's games.
Yep.
You played some of them, Luke? Where you're basically told something vague like, become the queen of goats. And then you just have to explore around until you figure out what the game actually wants you to do. And I'm not saying that as a criticism. I'm saying that this is where the fun is, this exploration, this sense of wonder, this sense of uncertainty. You don't know whether your next action is going to lead to unlocking one of these awesome achievements, which are absolutely hilarious. So, Goat Simulator on sale, get it today. And we've got another app of the week. This is absolutely awesome. Heading back to Google, this is the human alternative to Google's experimental image recognition software, which we spoke about last week, i.e. the artificial neural networks, which were being used to describe images to the blind. Well, Be My Eyes iPhone app lets you help the blind using video chat. So this is a human-to-human experience. It's a wonderful app. I absolutely love it.
So this app essentially lets sighted folks help blind folks on rare occasions they need it. Called Be My Eyes, the non-profit crowdsourced app on iOS only for now, pairs sighted users with blind users for a video chat. The concept is pretty simple. When a blind person needs help to, say, read the expiration date on a carton of milk across the street, they simply tap their screen to find the first sighted helper. Once the helper accepts the request, the blind person points the rear camera on their phone towards the problem for assistance via video chat.
It's a really great, unique idea.
13,000 helpers signed up to the app to help service around 1,145 blind people.
That's great. I'm actually signing up to this app because I think it's that cool.
Yeah, these are really, really good Blue Monday apps. So those are our Blue Monday top apps to download to make yourself feel a little bit better out of the world and help other people and generally be at zen with the world.
At zen, I like that. I like that.
Equal out your karma somewhat. Now here's a man that's having very little karma at the moment as we enter into the opinion section. David Cameron in cloud cuckoo land over encrypted messenger apps ban.
I mean, great title, isn't it? You know, what a way to start the opinion section. But Luke, what do you think about the pledge from our glorious Prime Minister David Cameron to give security services access to encrypted communications? Because an independent computer security expert, Graham Cooley, has said that it's crazy that Cameron is living in a cloud cuckoo land if he thinks that this is a sensible idea, and that no, it wouldn't be possible to implement.
Well, yeah, I totally agree. It wouldn't really be a possible thing to implement unless you had on your side every
app development company on the planet.
Yeah, unless you had on your side every app development company on the planet, every app store, and just every developer in general. I mean, you could just send an app to an individual person. It's not stopping criminals. It's like a gun thing. Banning guns doesn't stop criminals. People are just going to require guns. They're just not going to go through you anymore.
He obviously has never heard of a jailbroken iPhone. Hello, there's a whole new app store online where you can download whatever you like. That's not controlled by any central organisation, whatever. So it's just ludicrous. It's normal people suffering because of these ridiculous knee-jerk reactions by politicians who are getting involved with technologies and, I mean, sophisticated systems that they just do not understand. They do not understand whatsoever.
I think one of the big critical things about this article and the whole story is that ultimately it is a big brother state. That is a big brother state thing to say. It is one step away from saying that we're going to have microphones in everyone's front rooms because you can't be trusted to have a normal conversation with each other without us watching you constantly. You don't need to be hacking into Snapchat, which, as we said, isn't exactly difficult to hack into in the first place, but you don't need to be hacking into some 15-year-old's private messages with his girlfriend to know that he's a relatively safe person. Now, I know knee-jerk reactions, they happen, and people worry a lot about people being able to privately communicate. But people have been able to privately communicate for hundreds of thousands of years. It's called talking in a private place.
Exactly. Or whispering if you're in a public one. And I mean, even the UK's data watchdog have spoken out against this, saying that these kinds of moves could undermine consumer security completely. And I think they're damn right. Eris Industries, which uses open source cryptography, has actually said that it's making plans to leave the UK if the Conservative Party is re-elected with this policy in its programme. So fantastic. You know, it's a time of austerity. We need people here who are generating money, creating jobs, and they're all going to be leaving because David Cameron doesn't know what he's talking about.
Now, I don't particularly condone the other way either. I'm sure if Labour came in, they would want to try and enforce something similar to this. So I put together this little sample that is my favourite ever thing from Simpsons.
You'll have to vote for one of us.
He's right. This is a two-party system.
Well, I believe I'll vote for a third-party candidate.
Go ahead. Throw your vote away.
Yeah, I guess it's people meddling with technology, one, they don't know about, and two, they're actually making it more dangerous for themselves. Not being able to communicate privately is absolutely insane. If you give access to just one other person, one other third party or organisation into two people's conversation, you essentially invite the entire world to see that conversation. Hackers are smarter than the people who work at security firms. That is, and it sounds ridiculous. National security firms don't have people who hack as well as people hack.
Exactly. That's why when they're in prison, then they offer them a job afterwards.
Yeah, exactly.
Or drawing to get out.
Well, exactly. They need to get these people on their side somehow, and the way to do that is not to keep making enemies. And I know random hackers at the moment seem to be coming from here, there, and everywhere, and they're really worried that it's part of some sort of terrorist group or some sort of organisation. But honestly, most of it is random hackers. It is absolutely just some guy with no reason to do something other than the fact that he can prove to his hacker friends that he can do it.
Exactly. There's no larger concept behind these things. I mean, I've seen so many stories where people, they're claiming to be a member of this organisation for this reason. It's all a pretext. They're doing it for the sake of it, and that's it. But I definitely think I'll be leaving the UK too if this law comes into force, because it's clear that the terrorists have already won.
If we have no right to communicate with each other privately, we have no rights at all, really.
Yeah, what's the point? What is the point?
So, Cameron, just fill us in just a tiny bit more about what this story actually is, because we've been ranting about it, but we haven't actually given much information away as to what we are talking about to the listeners here. So David Cameron essentially says that he wants people to not have the ability to speak privately to each other.
David Cameron has essentially pledged to create anti-terror laws to give the security services the ability to read encrypted communications in, what he's claiming to be extreme circumstances. I would like to work out how you kind of gauge that if you can't see what the person's saying. But experts, of which there are absolutely thousands, have said that this access would actually mean changing the way internet-based messaging services such as Apple's iMessage or Facebook WhatsApp actually work. So it just highlights his ignorance and general stupidity.
Well, it's not even ignorance. That's general ignorance. Most people wouldn't know how WhatsApp works or how Facebook Messenger works or any of this stuff. But I think he has the responsibility to look it up before making a statement.
Exactly. It's the same thing with the US, with North Korea being blamed for the Sony hacks,
Yeah.
and then an independent security firm coming out and saying, well, sorry, actually, the FBI are wrong. It's impossible that it came from North Korea, because they have one inlet and outlet for their internet because of so many sanctions against them, and it would be pretty clear if it had have been them. And it wasn't, but look what happened. A very bold statement.
I highly recommend you go and check out if you're interested in the North Korea hacks and what happened there, go and check out the Ideas channel. It's called PBS Ideas channel on YouTube, and it talks about the differences between random hackers and the North Korean hackers, which just straight up didn't exist.
So that's the Ideas channel on YouTube. And this week we've had a really interesting write-in. And this week Richard Oppington has written in to ask, should schools stop wasting money buying iPads for pupils and start spending money on teachers? Is this kind of technology making any difference in the classroom? What do you think? So Luke, an amazing £250 million is spent every year on technology in schools, despite the fact that the UK has a below average student-teacher ratio. So what do you think? Should this money be spent on tech instead of teachers?
Well, I think, that touches on this idea of a digital Aristotle, right? So this is an idea that was come up with a little while ago to do with technology, that every student could have their own personal tutor who was a fictitious digital entity who essentially knew everything. We're not there yet. And we have a lot of technology, and nobody knows what the future is going to look like in 80 years. It probably won't include iPads, to be honest. So but they do need to invest fundamentally in getting kids to understand technology and computers and how they work and why they work and where they came from, their history, their heritage, how to program, how to code. There is so much to learn. But I think they're giving these kids computers, certainly when I was in school, which was only about 6-7 years ago, as a consumer end thing to do, teaching them how to use Word documents and Excel documents and things like that, which are very functional skills at this moment in time. But I think it's the fundamentals of computing that need to be taught. And to do that, I think more than technology itself, you need the teachers to teach them. And maybe it's not a case of them investing too heavily in technology and not enough in teachers. Maybe it's point A and point B aren't connected. Maybe they're spending the exact right amount on computers, but still not enough on teachers. I think that it's a nice balance to have, but you need to have a lot of technology in schools at this moment in time because you have no idea what these kids are going to be doing by the time they reach retirement age. The world is changing too fast. But you certainly do need a lot more teachers in schools.
I completely agree with you there, Luke. I mean, there's no doubt we do need more teachers, but there are only so many questions a teacher can answer in a single day until they start kind of telling kids to shut up and be quiet and put their hand down and sit in the corner.
This comes back to the why game, really, doesn't it? So when you're a kid, you ask why, and then your parent will go or your teacher will go because blah blah blah, and then you go, and why? And then because blah, blah, blah. And eventually a teacher gets to the point where they don't know anymore. And it's a very frustrating point for a teacher or a parent to have to say, I don't know. And so instead what they say to their child is stop asking why. And to stop asking why is probably the most dangerous thing you can ever say to a child. You're just harvesting ignorance for the rest of their life there, and you really need a way to communicate that to them that they can find out why for themselves. And that's why it's brilliant that they're putting technology into schools in this way. But it does not make up for a lack of teachers. Teachers must be there to show them how to find out information, not so much teach them the information themselves. I know the basic maths and English and drama and PE should still be there, but it's all about balance and it's all about future-proofing the schools.
You took the words out of my mouth there, Luke. Spot on. Yeah, absolutely. It's future-proofing children's education, schools. I mean, learning has to evolve, definitely. And I can see why a lot of money's been put into this technology. But the fact that the UK has a below-average student-teacher ratio is sad. Let's fix that and then get the technology involved. Mm-hmm. But we need the technology. We need it.
Well, that's all I can really say on that subject at this current moment in time, and I think I've sort of unfortunately summed up most of your beliefs in the technology as well.
It's good, it's good.
So we don't have much of a balanced conversation here. If you would like to contribute to that conversation or discussion at all, you can of course email us. Go to our website to find out all of those details. Email us your own personal questions as well. We'd love to hear from you.
So I have one more little thing to say, and it's that the money currently being spent on technology in schools is enough to hire 8,000 new teachers or build 40 new secondary schools. So that's an interesting statistic. Makes you think. It really does make you think. Anyway.
Thank you very much. I've been Luke Besant.
And I've been Cameron Ross.
And we leave you with a quote.
William Gibson once said, "The future is already here.
It's just unevenly distributed."
You've been listening to the App to Date podcast.
Follow us on Twitter at iOS App News 24. Find us on Facebook, the App to Date podcast, where you can catch up with the latest show notes, artwork and discussions and more.
We also offer a free weekly email news summary, which you can sign up for through the Facebook page.
And if you're interested in sponsoring or a partnership with the show, make sure you visit our website, www.3deal.co.uk for more information.
Subscribe and we'll see you next week.